Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. We're here today with Empire versus Skaven. This is actually Tlaxlan Soothsayer as the Empire and myself as Skaven. So yeah, Volkmar, of course, did get a bit of a buff in the last patch. Soulfire for Volkmar, the Archlector, and the Warrior Priest got quite a bit better. You guys have probably seen this already, but in case you haven't, it is quite a bit better now. Volkmar and the Chariot, also a very good pick here. We've got some Swordsmen, Flagellant, Sigmar's Son, some Spearmen, Huntsmen as well, very good in this matchup. Bright Wizard, 3 Great Cannons, couple of Empire Knights, very solid Empire build. For myself, I've got Queek. Yes, I know, Queek. But we've got Queek and the Assassin to try and layer on the double debuff here. Figuring that if I can get my hands on the Chariot, even for a small amount of time, we should be able to do quite a bit of burst damage. 2 Rat Ogres, we've got the Warp Lightning Cannon, a Council Guard, Plague Priest hidden in the woods over there. Front line is mixed Clan Rats. We've got some Slaves up front and a couple of Sword and Board Vermin. And yeah, Naughty Bubo Sharpshooters, naturally. They themselves, these are the Teeth Breakers. Sharpshooters are up here. They just pop the concealment bombs there to hide themselves. Unfortunately, that fireball was already cast. Going to take out a couple models there, but you can see we're trading reasonably efficiently into the cannons. Unfortunately, they are going to start to blow up my Warp Lightning cannons, but over here, these great cannons are taking some hits as well from the Natty Bubo Sharpshooters, which is pretty decent. Oh, good hits there, potentially. Honestly, I probably should be focusing my cannon on heavy cavalry. Unfortunately, Tlaxlan Soothsayer are doing a really good job keeping most of his heavy cav in range, but like these Empire Knights are a pretty big threat for me. Probably should be focus firing on them, but we'll see. These cannons did just get 1 unit model blown up there, second model just about done, so I'm pretty happy with the performance so far. Meanwhile, just kind of squaring up the front line here, making sure we've got units in decent positions to protect. I don't really mind if the Huntsmen decide to shoot the Skaven slaves for a little bit there, but the Sniper's now going after the Caster, and if we can snipe out the Caster real quick, just get him off the field very, very quickly, he should be very, very good value, and he takes quite a bit of damage there. You can see Volkmar deciding to get the frontline engagement underway, charges into some of these Skaven slaves here, and we are going to get the Storm Vermin clashing with State Troops. Of course, that will go in the Storm Vermin's favor. We've got these Rat Ogres also potentially going to catch out some Empire Knights here, but there are these Huntsmen also in the vicinity, so that's potentially dangerous. We're not quite going to finish out the Bright Wizard there, but here that bombardment comes down and does a ton of damage to those Skaven slaves. Terror routes them away, even did quite a bit to those Clan Rats as well, so a little bit rough, but Queek and his Assassin buddy coming through. We're going to try and catch out Volkmar if we can, anywhere we can. There are some Empire Knights coming up and around the flank here, a little bit blobbed up with my Clan Rats, but we're going to try and make it work. Unfortunately, most of the artillery pieces have been blown up at this point, but both my ROR ranged units, thankfully, are still online. We're going to get a nice clash here between Rat Ogres. Got some Huntsmen mixed in there, and the Empire Knights, of course. Empire Knights on an open field charge will do quite well here. Naughty Bubo Sharpshooters supporting with some of their sharp shooting, but unfortunately those Rat Ogres just took a ton of damage. Had done really good work already, but here come the Teeth Breakers, going to open up on those Empire Knights, start to do a ton of damage. Meanwhile, we're starting to break through the front line a little bit. Queek getting caught up by the Sigmar's Sons isn't great. Again, I really want him and the Assassin shadowing Volkmar as much as possible. We're going to get the Council Guard over there to help give them some physical resistance and whatever, so yeah. So far, so good. Storm Vermin pushing through. We're going to try and get them up and into this back line if we can. But these Rat Ogres here getting caught up in the Spearmen. Some really nice anti-large damage for the Huntsmen. Huntsmen are going to be very good against Rat Ogres and Hell Pits. Makes it really, really tough to use them as your sole anti-cav tool, which they are. But Volkmar here taking some good damage. These State Troops are going to try and get in here for support, but you see here, he will actually take a couple of attacks from the Assassin and from Queek, and that just a couple of attacks will do quite a bit of damage. So yeah, we'll see. Not the greatest engagement there, but Natty Bubo's at this point taking quite a bit of fire from the cannons. Unfortunately, we did not shut them down super effectively. That being said, these Rat Ogres did just come back from rout. We can probably go back and start to deal with one of those cannon crews at least, but yeah, the Teeth Breakers at this point also getting shelled. They've generated a ton of value so far, shooting at Empire Knights and other various high-value targets. We're going to pop the concealment bombs and pull away because I really don't want them getting shelled by these cannons. But you can see the Rat Ogres are going to get back and get on this cannon crew here. Unfortunately, because they're so low on leadership and HP, they probably aren't going to stay for long, especially with the Hunters providing some really, really nice crossfire there, but we should be able to shut that cannon down at least for some time. Storm Vermin there, I probably should be just pushing back, honestly, not really worrying too much about the spears, but we are caught up on Empire Infantry. That being said, Volkmar is going to come over here, and we might be able to get a good position. Unfortunately, I hadn't really been using my caster super well up until this this situation here. I'd gotten a couple of good Blessed with Filths here, and we're also going to get some Clan Rat summons going. Honestly, if I had activated this guy a little bit earlier to support this engagement on this flank, had some Clan Rat summons to like disrupt those Huntsmen, for example, while my Rat Ogres were coming in, and just generally having more support in this area, probably could have broken through to these cannons a little bit more effectively, but you can see here the Rat Ogres do eventually get chased off there just through leadership, and the cannons able to get back online. So despite the fact we've done good damage to all three cannons, they're online, but at this point Volkmar's taken a ton of damage. He's getting suppressed by, he was getting suppressed at least by the Teeth Breakers, and Queek and the Assassin were able to get in, do some good damage. Unfortunately, these Empire Knights came out of the woods, just shut down the Teeth Breakers very, very quickly, so that's a bit rough. There's this full health unit of Empire Knights pretty much here, and they just shattered the Teeth Breakers, so that was tough. I was really relying on that suppression effect to debuff the speed of these Empire troops here. It's going to be really hard for me to catch Volkmar at this point, but we'll see. The Storm Vermin are chatting it up right now, though. They have pushed through many units here, 145 kills and climbing, just wrecking through state troops over here, even these Empire Knights. Just because Storm Vermin, they have so many models, they have good stats all around, they can just stand and hold against these Empire Knights. They have heavy mass and everything. They will be able to drag it out in the long run, but over here, you can see it's a bit of a tough situation for Volkmar. He, again, is just getting chased by many, many rats, and anytime he stops, he's going to start to take attacks. That being said, the Fire Sorcerer back on field is bad news for me. That means he's going to be able to start fireballing some of my characters, which is not great in the late game, but we'll see. We do have these Storm Vermin pushing back here. They're able to shut down these Huntsmen. We're probably going to be able to shut down some of these cannons as well. These victorious Storm Vermin, and we've got some regrouping Rat Ogres, can continue to... not Rat Ogres. Definitely not Rat Ogres. Clan Rats. They can continue to follow up as well. We'll see, though. Definitely going to be tough, and a really nice... ooh, I thought it was a SOULFIRE there. Maybe it was. Volkmar, 83 kills and climbing. And the cannons are going to have to be careful. They might end up doing a bit of friendly fire to Volkmar as well, shooting that danger close into that situation, but we'll see. You can see the Storm Vermin pushing back here. The Empire Knights are going to come and try and wrap things up, but yeah, this unit of Storm Vermin able to get in on this artillery crew, and at the very least start to take out some of these very tattered units in the back line here. Those Storm Vermin sword and board definitely not to be underestimated in this matchup. They are very, very strong here. And yeah, the Huntsmen have used up pretty much all their ammo at this point, and it is very close on the balance of power. Volkmar's taking a few more hits here with the trophy heads active, and again, he's just not quite fast enough, especially when he's exhausted like this. I really should be getting some more Blessed with Filth to try and slow him down a little bit there with the poison, but the Empire Knight's going to come bail him out there. Very thankfully, he was just about to get canned there. Volkmar getting very low. But yeah, this artillery crew's been routed off. That artillery crew's been routed off a little bit late in the game for that, but if we can save ourselves from this missile damage, that will be quite helpful. The issue is going to be that these Storm Vermin are quite isolated from the rest of the battle, so we'll see some Huntsmen also coming back from route here that could shoot in the back there. And yeah, this full health unit of Empire Knights definitely a problem. 156 kills and an XP Chevron. And oh man, I have to say, I love the color rework for the Empire Knights. They're going to slowly close in on these Storm Vermin here who are desperately trying to get away. They don't get the greatest charge in the world, which is good for me. We're going to kind of filter back into sort of a normal-ish melee engagement, but we're going to get side charged here by this other unit of Empire Knights. You can see the initial engagement really wasn't going well there, but this charge will be quite decent in the back there. Likewise, Volkmar is also pushing through, and you can see the Skaven trailing pretty badly behind at this point, since they're no longer in their charge animations. We're going to try and use the speed buff for Queek, but unfortunately that fireball does come in and KO the Assassin, which is going to put a pretty decent dent in the balance power. You can see him kiting away with the Storm Vermin as well, but at this point it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. Unfortunately, my Storm Vermin all isolated like that, getting taken out by the more mobile Empire troops. We do get one more Clan Rat summon to try and clean up some state troops here, but yeah, it's not quite going to be enough. And Volkmar will absolutely tank it out. Another really nice bombardment there. And yeah, Queek fights till the bitter end, but unfortunately just not quite enough at the end of the day. Like I said, I think if I had brought my caster forward a little bit earlier on, started to support on that left side engagement, and we had been able to win more decisively there, maybe push some of those Clan Rat summons back to shut down those artillery pieces a little bit earlier. Maybe help shut down those Empire Knights as well so they don't get on the Teeth Breakers. Potentially we could have brought it back. It's definitely tough to say. It ended up being a super close battle though, and definitely the Storm Vermin, Sword and Board, super MVPs here. I do think that Queek for only 1600 is not a bad option, honestly. That debuff is really, really strong. And if him and the Assassin, I mean, you can layer them both on top of each other if you want, or you can use one after the other, but I mean, using them together with those debuffs, they can do a ton of damage. And I think even against someone like, you know, Karl Franz, I honestly wasn't too worried about getting sniped. Missile sniped, maybe. I mean, maybe Marcus can missile snipe Queek, but again, he's an infantry target, so they're not getting that bonus versus large, and he is also just, you know, harder to hit and everything, so I don't know. I think you're going to see a bit more of Queek just because the cost reduction makes him pretty decent for that strong of a debuff, and you can bring some other tools as the Skaven. Yeah. Teeth Breaker is definitely pretty solid. Natty Boobos for Tlaxlan Soothsayer, of course. This is pretty solid anti-Skaven Empire build. Previously, you would have probably seen Flagellants and Free Company, but I like the Huntsman a lot here because, again, they're very good against most of the low armor large of the Skaven, even against the high armor large, stuff like Flayers and Doom Wheels. Still going to be pretty decent there. Empire Knights also super solid, especially if they just get loose in the back line there. 218 kills, absolutely beautiful. 124 for the Sigmar Sons, 99 for these Flagellants, 91 for Volkmar himself, so definitely a very approved build here. Yeah, you could have some fun with the new Hunts Marshal General and go with a really fire-focused build in that way, but Volkmar is just such a solid pick here with the AoE damage, especially with the bombardment now. And yeah, let's actually go on to one more replay here. I wanted to show this one to you guys because it does sort of pertain as well to that Soulfire. So this time we've gone Gelt, double Warrior Priest. They're each supporting a demi-squad, and we're going up against Heir of Carthage's Gorok-led Lizardmen build, so a pretty interesting Lizardmen build. We'll kind of get into it more in just a little bit here, but yeah, for myself, we've got some Spearmen with shields, Swordsmen, again, the two Huntsmen. Balthazar is going to be up in the air, and the two demi-squads, each led by a Warrior Priest. One of them is the Altdorf Griffites, one of them just a regular demi-squad, but yeah, the Warrior Priests are a bit more expensive now, how I like to kit them out. Hammer of Sigmar, Soulfire, and Shield of Faith, along with the Scroll of Power to be able to double cast very quickly. As for Heir's build here, he does have two of these solar engines, which can be a decent pick against the Empire. Potentially can be a bit risky as well, but they're going to be pretty decent here at applying that effect. This blinded effect in particular is quite strong against some high-value targets. Plenty of skinks in the front line. He's also got some salamander hunting packs, cohort with javelins, quite a few sacred croc scores as well, which is an interesting pick. Sacred croc scores are sort of meant to be more of an all-arounder compared to normal croc scores, but in this matchup I do think that they're going to potentially have a tough time against like Demigryph Knights, for example. We'll see, but we're going to get the engagement underway here as the state troops start to meet in the front line with the skinks. Some jabs going to get thrown. Balthazar will take a little bit of damage, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. Huntsman starting to put some fire in on those Sacred Croc scores, and yeah, you can see my front line's getting beat down super hard already. We're going to try and do as much damage as we can in the meantime, but here come the demis with the faith buffs and the bombardment. Especially against these very, very light skinks, it will do quite a bit of damage, and that allows the Demigryph Knights to then get in more effectively against the unit models that they needed to. Other demis making their way over from the side here, and we're getting the Pistoliers forgotten about, but that's fine. These Empire Knights taking a beating, though, from those Salamander hunting packs. That is absolutely brutal, and the Legion of Chakra are going to come move out on this side to support. Let's see. That's Soulfire. Didn't do a whole lot. Did more damage to the skinks, definitely, but it's okay, especially because it has no max cap. But oh man, Balthazar is having to be careful. Solar engines are both going after him pretty aggressively, but you can see the Sacred Croc scores here just got wrecked by those juiced Altdorf Griffites. That's really, yeah, definitely going to be a very strong combination here, even with just Gelt and double Warrior Priest, double Demi Squad. In this particular matchup, in a few other matchups as well, I could see this working quite well. Now, I did not bring Transmutation of Lead on Gelt, which I definitely would recommend against some higher attack factions, just to help your Demigryph Knights maybe not take so much damage, but really nice bombardment there. That bombardment from Lore of Metal, Searing Doom, that's what it's called, is quite good. I'm a huge fan of it against like Cav model-sized units, which of course salamanders are, but salamanders have been definitely paying for themselves. Meanwhile, I have been able to get on the solar engine in the back line here. Altdorf Gryphites, again, because of the scroll of power there, are able to take advantage of the buffs one more time. And the salamanders should start firing in here to the Altdorf Gryphites. We're going to get relatively low, and those salamanders do quite a bit of anti-large damage, so it's a little bit rough there. We'll see. Balance of power looking pretty well in my favor at this point, as these Demigryph Knights, though they have taken a lot of damage from those Sacred Croc scores, they are able to kind of carry the engagement eventually there. Some nice Searing Dooms once again from Balthazar, and we've been able to get this Feral Manticore into a kind of a baited position between these two Huntsmen. Eric wants to chase Balthazar, which is definitely a good idea. You know, keep him busy. Make sure, you know, if I slip up and make a micro mistake, Balthazar could get eaten quite easily. But at the same time, it kind of allows me to sort of lead the Manticore back through the fire of the Huntsman to distract it. But meanwhile, over here, the Altdorf Gryphites getting very low again, and the fire from those salamanders definitely pretty serious. I almost think going with like a super mobile build. We'll talk more about that afterwards, but yeah. Warrior Priest coming in here with these Demigryph Knights again. Gonna finally get a hold of these salamanders, and that will be the end of them. Finally finishing off that unit that had done so much damage. They're gonna get killed very, very quickly. And at this point, it's just a matter of time. We do still have the Legion of Chakwa fighting quite admirably here. Again, the Manticore going to nom Balthazar ever so slightly, and Gorok himself haven't really talked about much. He's just been beating down state troops mostly, but my goal was more or less just to ignore him and kill everything else and then try and force army losses. I do think that Gorok is probably the way to go here. We'll talk about the rest of the army composition in just a minute, but I do like Gorok quite a bit here because he's snipe proof from like Wolfheart, for example. Just in general, he's a very tanky character. He's good in combat as well, so like Franz can come down and try and snipe him, but he probably is going to take some damage in the meantime, and you can support Gorok with some other elements as well. But yeah, at this point, it's just a matter of finishing off Gorok and the Manticore. Gorok's going to kind of get in a little bit of a situation where he gets crossfired by multiple different units, including the Pistoliers that I had completely forgotten about, which is fine. And yeah, just a bad situation. Balthazar going to come down, get routed off, but it's too much for Gorok, and he decides to head home. So yeah, the SOULFIRE buffs didn't end up actually getting that many kills, but just again helping to clear out the way for the demis to get in and get on the high value targets is really what you take it for. And then of course the buffs as well make the Demigryph Knights that much stronger. In terms of the Huntsmen, I quite like them in this and a number of other matchups. I almost think they're superior to handgunners in many ways, just because they don't get obstructed, right? Like because they're archers, they have an arc of fire. They practically do close to the same amount of armor piercing damage as handguns once you factor in the bonus versus large. They have really good range. They have stock and loose formation, which helps in a number of situations. And I just think that you're probably going to see more use out of Huntsmen than handgunners in a number of different matchups. We'll see. Handgunners probably still will be a staple for the Empire, but I definitely like these juiced up Demigryph Knights with the Warrior Priests, with Balthazar leading the way. Definitely a very potent potential here, especially with the Pistoliers, of course, Plague of Rust. Just a lot of potential with Balthazar. For Air's build, I definitely like the use of Gorok here, and I think that he's onto something with the Salamander hunting packs. I think the Bastiladons and the Sacred Croc scores was a little bit of a rough pick. If we go ahead and have a look here, I do like the Beastcaster as well with Gorok, so just kind of thinking about the Empire matchup a little bit. It's quite an interesting one, and you know, now that I've had time to play through this DLC and kind of distill everything down, I do think taking Gorok is going to be the go-to here. I don't know that I would ever take this to the death. It's just, I don't know that it's necessarily worth it. Just save your money there. Shield of Aeons I would probably take. Same with Mace of Olmec. Just in case he gets into a scrap, he can punch somebody in the face. Skink with Beasts is going to be pretty decent here. I might consider Wisson's Wild Form or Pan's Pelt to give physical resistance to some other units. If we go ahead and have a look here, I'm going to advocate for some Cold One Spear Riders, just because they have good anti-large AP damage. They don't have the most melee attack in the world, but if properly supported against Empire Cavalry, they will do quite well. We're going to go with a really wide front line of combined Red-Crested Skinks, and Skink cohort. Red Crest trade very cost efficiently with most Empire infantry in the front line. You really don't necessarily need to go with Saurus in this matchup, I don't think. And from here we can do a few different things. We don't have anything that causes terror, so it probably would be good to get a Feral Carnosaur. That kind of elite anti-large AP. If he's supporting these Cold One Spear Riders against Demigryph Knights, they should be able to sort of in tandem do relatively well. And then we still have enough to afford almost one unit of Salamanders. Oh man, we'll have to cut something down here, unfortunately. But, oh man, that's painful. Only 3 points short. I guess we can cut the cohort of Sotek down. Let's grab just a regular Red Crest instead. And actually, we could maybe also, depending on how risky you want to go, you could also trade another Cold One out for another Salamander. And that would allow you to do just a little bit more skirmishing. With this much of a skirmish build, you may also want to consider going with some Skink skirmishers as well to provide some Overwatch fire. I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing here. This feels a little bit light, like you might get run over by some heavy cav, but at the same time, I mean, you've got the Feral Carnosaur, you've got some Spear Riders. Gorok, you know, maybe you would consider taking the Saurus Old Blood as well, just because he has the Horn of Kygor. It's a pretty good attack buff. He's not going to be as tanky as Gorok, though. Definitely much more vulnerable to getting dived on by somebody like Karl Franz. That's kind of why I like Gorok here, is just that he's, you know, he's tanky enough that he can take on somebody like Karl in melee. He's not going to get missile sniped super easy. Just in general, he's going to be a pretty decent option. The hard thing is not having that that attack buff. Really, I mean, this Shield of the Aeons definitely can help, especially if you've got him saturated in a front line of Red Crest. Red Crest will go up to 90 armor with that effect active, and of course they get expert charge defense against expert charge defense against all, right? So that means, like, if you're getting charged by Empire Knights, for example, you can stand and brace with the Shield of the Aeons with the Red Crested Skinks. You pop his melee defense buff as well, which juices up their melee defense, and suddenly they're going to be trading really efficiently into Empire Cav. Empire Cav's going to have a hard time getting away because these guys have poison and high speed. So I think that, honestly, just, going with sort of the defensive Red Crest, as weird as it sounds, with Gorok actually could work out pretty decently here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, though, since you've had an opportunity to watch a lot of games for Empire versus Lizardmen. What do you think about this matchup? How would you go about it from the Lizardmen side? Definitely very interested to see what you have to say. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.